Hello everybody and welcome back to the Leeds Lens. I think we're finally going, so that's fantastic. We've had a few technical issues. We don't usually actually have technical issues on the Leeds Lens, but we've actually had one tonight. So here we are for, I think, a third time now, and we're all going. Because we have got quite a bit to get into this evening, of course. We've got all the aftermath talk regarding yesterday's performance. There's also a lot of Daniel Farke quotes that I want to talk about. I also want to get into, at the start, a bit about my post-match yesterday, because people didn't really like it, and I want to talk about why that is and sort of how I'm feeling still regarding that. So yeah, we've got quite a bit to get into, but I actually want to start with yesterday's match reaction, because what I want to say about it is, obviously, I was quite animated, I was quite frustrated, not usually what you see on this channel, actually. Because I thought it was a really good opportunity yesterday for Leeds United to pick up 3 points. And that's why, obviously, the frustration was there after the game. But what I do want to say is, I think what I ended up doing, which I probably won't do again now, is, look, I'm new to doing this. Naturally, we're going to go different ways at times and not do the right thing all the time. But I basically ended up making a video for Burnley fans, which was fantastic. And even though Burnley fans did watch it and did comment quite a lot on it, they weren't even happy with it themselves. So not only did I not really make a video that Leeds fans would that particularly, so it's obviously part of it's my opinion, so that's fine. But I also ended up making a video for Burnley fans to jump onto, and they didn't like it either. And they said that I didn't give Burnley enough credit, which I am going to show something to say why I didn't give enough credit in a minute. So I'll show it up now, actually. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that Burnley are awful and they're going to finish 20th, even though that's sort of what I believe. But I am not going to say what I don't see. And I think if I'm trying to back up my own point, potentially, this might do it. So when I said that Burnley weren't that good in the game, and actually Leeds United gave them the game, and we shouldn't have lost the game maybe, potentially this might be what I'm referring to, maybe. Just saying to any Burnley fans that are watching, not that you're awful and going to finish 20th and all this, and you're the worst team in the division, but you've played at home, and yes, you've won the game, and well done to you. But everyone that's saying that they weren't total garbage and they weren't rubbish, I don't know. I'm just saying. Anyway, let's move on from Burnley fans. But that is no more reactions like that, I don't think, because you end up with people who don't really just can't get on board with the points, and that's fine. So yeah, and you make maybe a video for alternative fan bases. But yeah, just if you are any Burnley fans, just saying. Anyway, let's move on to some of Daniel Farke's quotes then, because I do want to get stuck into this. That was a bit of a joke at the start. If there are any Burnley fans watching, bit of a joke, you get the point. Anyway, let's move on from that. And let's talk a bit about Daniel Farke's quotes, because I think if there's anything that seems to get Daniel Farke in bother at this moment in time, yes, it's performances, yes, it's underperforming, yes, it's losing vital games against Burnley, full enough. But I think more than anything, the thing that riles Leeds United fans up is potentially some of the quotes he has after the game. And I think if we look at the first quote, I get where they're coming from. I mean, what he said, and I'll read it out, I'll have to look over here because that's where the quote is, but we went wrong in both boxes. Cannot have better stats than we did away from home today. Possession, shots, big chances, XG, corners, even when Arsenal, Man City, etc. all come here, they will not repeat that. Sometimes, maybe like I should have done yesterday, you've got to hold your hands up and go, yeah, got that one wrong. We lost the game. Fine. I'm a fan. I'm a fan that comes online, has a talk about Leeds United. That's what we do here. We're predominantly Leeds United based. Exactly. We get some Burnley fans naturally, but we are predominantly Leeds United based, of course. And yeah, I just hate this quote. I just can't stand it. It's like, it feels like something that we'd criticise Arteta for doing. Like, it's just not what we want to hear. Come out and say, we got it wrong today. We picked we're going to make it right on Friday, should I say, against West Ham. We got things wrong. Don't go on your high-flying horse and tell us how everything's fantastic and blow smoke over our eyes, when we know full well we've just lost a massive 6-pointer. And yes, like I talked about, I showed the stats in the first thing, so maybe I'm a bit of a hypocrite here. But what I was trying to represent there was a different conversation here. But this is our actual manager straight after the game saying this. And it just frustrates me. And I think it frustrates the rest of the Leeds United fan base. I don't think we want this smoke blowing over our eyes. And it's just like, just go away. Just stop talking. You're doing everyone's head in. And I do think naturally when a manager's losing games that you want them to win, and you're losing performances and you're not performing at the same level that you'd expect to, then potentially you're going to get annoyed by whatever he says. I think that's definitely true. But what I will say regarding that is, just don't say it because you're winding the fan base up more. I just think it's a bad statement to say. I really do. Anyway, let's move on to the next quote. He said, "We had to be more switched on blocking the cross from Walker. Could have stepped out on the second goal as well. Yeah, I know you should have picked Biol, mate, in Wenstruik. Many aspects I liked. When you're 2-0 down away, your heads can drop. But we gave them nothing else in terms of effectiveness. We were the better side." And I think for the most part, like if you look through the chances, I think we did create a number of opportunities yesterday. I didn't think we created chances by being fantastic, though. They weren't well done chances. They weren't like tactical masterstrokes and really lovely possessions of play. It was like, knock it to Calvert-Lewin, he heads across and Bogue has a really good chance. Or Esteve makes a mistake at the back, Harrison gets it, feeds it into Aronson, he has a good chance. They were the sort of opportunities I felt that Leeds United were making yesterday, as opposed to really well worked chances. In my humble opinion, it was a lot of crosses, it was a lot of long balls. That was the way we were going. I don't think there was a lot of ingenious involved in it, if that's what we're getting at here. But what I will say is that, the first goal is a nightmare, innit? Like, it's a true nightmare, because that's a goal that sets the tone for the game. That's a goal that Walker gets on the right-hand side, wonderful ball in, and we've just got an overload in the centre of the box, and obviously Leslie Ochuku does a good header into the far corner. But we've got to be more switched on there, and he's right. Someone has got to block that cross, because he's also right. Regardless of where we go into these places, whoever you go 1-0 down to in this league, regardless of who they are, and I know we've slagged off Burnley a bit at the start of this video again, but what I'm trying to say overall with this is that, yes, Burnley are not one of the greatest teams in the league, but you can't go away, especially away from home. We can't go 1-0 down. We're not good enough, especially when we've got the winger combination that we played yesterday. We're not good enough to sort of better bring it back, and you saw that yesterday in parts, in my opinion. So he is right. We have got to be better at keeping clean sheets. But then I look at it and go, well, you've got Biol sat there, who we've bought as a centre-half, who's going to win headers, who closes people down. And both the goals come from two opportunities like that. One where Biol potentially gets his head on it with the first goal. And the second goal where I think if that's Biol, he probably engages to Schwander, whatever he's called. And obviously the shot that fires in the top corner. I think Pascal Sharp doesn't engage. And I think potentially Biol does, because we know when we've looked at him before, when we signed him, that is what he's good at. He's good at coming out and pressing people and being aggressive and being physical and sort of bringing the physicality to the game that I think Pascal Sharp lacks at times. Anyway, that's what he also said. He also went to say, if you go behind at this level, it's always hard, which I do agree with, to be fair. We have addressed we want in return to clean sheet behaviour. Defending overall was good. Allowed one chance before half time. If you are always climbing the mountain, it's difficult. Yeah, and which I agree with. Which is sort of what I just said, really. But I do agree with this. But I just think with Daniel Farke, sometimes when he comes out after press conferences, and this is just one example, but I could name 100 examples of this, where after games, I don't see accountability, and I wish I did. That's his one big thing from after games that I never seem to see. It's the accountability. I just don't see accountability from Daniel Farke. Has he ever come out and said, that was on me today? Has he ever done that? He's managed this club for over 2 years. We've had a lot of bad results. A lot of good results, but a lot of bad results. Has he ever come out and actually took accountability for what he has done in a game? He has never done that. And sometimes, like if we were to lose another game, there's a big game this season under his stewardship, we're going to have to see that at some point, because it's going to get to a point where it's just going to drive the fans mad. And when I look at sort of the fan base at this moment in time, the results this year are not fantastic now. I think we've started the worst of all the newly promoted teams, in my personal opinion. Mainly because Burnley's fixtures, like as I said, Burnley have played Villa away, they've played Man City away, they've played Man United away, they've played Liverpool, and they've played somebody else at Spurs away as well. So 5 really tricky games. We haven't had a run like that of them 5 tricky games. So I think we've started the worst now. But it's not like absolutely horrendous. We're not like Wolves who are on 2 points. But I think the reason there's such a movement in the fan base to get him gone now, like I saw a poll this morning, which was a poll that was like, Do you want to give him more time? Do you think he should stay and you're happy with him? Or do you think he should leave? And 40% of the fan base were saying he should be sacked. Now, this is a manager who's just got us promoted, and it's a manager who's got 8 points in his first 8 games for a newly promoted club. It's not horrendous. But I think that one of the main driving factors for this is that he just doesn't take accountability in press conference, and he won't come out and say, we got this wrong today. I set the team up wrong. Maybe Aronson shouldn't have played. He goes on in the next quotes, if I show you them now, to go on about sort of the clear connection that Brendan Aronson doesn't make with it. I won't read the whole quote out, but he goes on about Brendan Aronson doesn't make a clean connection with it. Well, you're the one picking him, mate. You had a few weeks ago, we played Fulham away. And you picked Nonto. You had Nonto, James, and Aronson available. Now I get it a bit more yesterday because we don't have them available. I know James was there, but he was never going to play 90. If we're being totally honest, he's just come back from an injury. I thought it was too early to be playing him at all. If I'm being totally honest, but he came on and made a bit of an impact at probably 50% fitness. But my point is, even when he's had the options of Nonto and when he's had the options of James, he's still opted to go with Aronson. And yet he's coming out after the game telling us that Aronson's basically not done well enough with that shot. Well, you're the one picking him, pal. And that is where the accountability frustrates me with Daniel Farke. BMG says, Farke knew we had no other wingers, so surely a 3-5-2 with Bogle and Gabby wide would have been better for this game. Plus, it gives Biol a chance for the first time. I'm worried about us staying up. Yeah, I think this was... I talked about this in the video yesterday, in my match reaction, which is that I think now, I think yesterday was a scale. I thought yesterday, you're looking at it going, if we win this game, it's been a really good start to the Premier League season. If we lose this game, it's a turning point. It now doesn't look that great. I thought the Wolves was the same game. We came out in the right result in that one, but I thought the Burnley one was the exact same and we lost it. Because now, if you look at it, if we're being totally honest, we've won 1 game in 7. 1 in 7 now. We beat Everton on the first day on the 18th of August. We've actually won 1 game since the 18th of August in the Premier League, but actually in all competitions because we actually lost to Sheffield Wednesday in the Cup as well. So we've won 1 game since the 18th of August. It's not that good anymore. It's not that good, which is why I was so disappointed and frustrated in the Bournemouth game when we came out of it, where we're literally 90 seconds away from winning the game and we concede late because we need them points. Because there'll be sometimes like yesterday where the game's gone in the 90th minute and we're not going to get any points. BMG says, in my opinion, Aronson and Harrison are never going to provide much in attack as proved. Versus a good team. They do a job defensively. Burnley were bad, but zero attacking threat. They held on easily. Yeah, exactly. I think that's a fair summary. I don't want to go into this Burnley stuff again. I sort of mocked them at the start of the video. I don't want to go into it too much. They beat us fair and square, but I don't think they're a good team. I think they will go down. I don't think they offered a lot. I mean, they had 4 shots at home in the whole game, and I know they scored early, so naturally games dictates that at times. But they're not a good team. But as you said, Harrison and Aronson are never going to offer everything in the final third. I do want to talk a bit about the 3-5-2, like you've mentioned, BMG, or the 5-3-2, as some people like to see it, because I don't think that's the answer. I really don't. Well, should we do that now? Actually. Actually, we'll just get over this final quote and then we'll move on to that. So his final quote, he said, "We spoke about offence in the summer. We have the situation we have. Players are out. We had James on the bench for emergency cases, which I think we sort of thought. Tricky in this moment. Players we could have had. Players could have been more effective. Not confidence problem. Just one team playing today. Football can be like this." And I think that's probably fair enough, if I'm being totally honest. But yeah, let's have a quick look. I'll move this over here so I can actually see. You can actually see the screen when I move it over on the graphic. But this is obviously how we lined up yesterday and sort of how they lined up in the game. But if we actually go to a 3-back, so if I get it up now and we went to a 3-back, you'd probably be looking at. You'd probably pull out Pascal Struijk. No, I'm not about what you'd probably pull out. Harrison and Aronson. I think most people will do this. You'd move Goodmanson up here. You'd have these as your midfield 3, probably more flat, and you'd obviously bring Biol in. Where is it? Let's have a look for Biol. So you'd probably bring Biol in, as you can see there, and that'd probably be your back 3. Now, my issue has always been with this formation, and the reason, and I've talked about this at length before, but I'm happy to go into it again here, is that I just don't think this is ever going to work in the Premier League. And I'll always hark back to England playing this formation in the World Cup. And we actually lost the game against Croatia in the first sort of tournament. England did quite well in under Gareth Southgate. And the problem with this formation, it will always be, is the fullbacks. Because you either, with the fullbacks, get onto them with your we need to put another we'll put another attacker on as well, because I've just realised we're one short. So say it was, I don't know, whoever you want in. Say it's Nemec that goes up front with Calvert-Lewin. It doesn't really matter for what I'm trying to say. But what ends up happening is with your fullbacks here, so you've got Hartman and Walker. As you can see, Nemec and Calvert-Lewin are Tuanzebe and Esteves, man. And then you've got Bogle in this sort of weird position where does he lock onto Jadon Anthony and become a back five like this? And then you're defending a back five. Or does Bogle lock on to Hartman like this, and Goodmanson lock on to Walker, and then you play almost three at the back? Now, the issue with this three at the back is that then you're one-on-one with the centre-halves. All the centre-halves have to mark up the men like this. If this happens, and any one of them makes mistakes, so say Fleming turns Biol, he's now in. So say he spins him here, he's now in on goal. That's an issue. Or, alternatively, what happens is that you become a back five, like we said, and Anthony becomes Bogle's man, and Walker becomes Goodmanson's man, like this. Not Walker becomes Goodmanson's man, and to show or whatever he's called, becomes Goodmanson's man, and you play like this. Now the issue is that when Anthony comes inside here, drags Bogle inside, Hartman has got the freedom of Turf Moor down the outside. And you could go, well, you can bring Longstaff across, which you can, but the midfield job becomes too difficult for your midfield three. You see it all the time. They don't. I know we've got good runners in there, but they can't get out quick enough to do that. So you end up with just him having free crosses and Walker having free crosses all day into the penalty area, and you just constantly get overloads on the outside religiously, because essentially they're playing with two wide players in Anthony and Hartman, and we're playing with one with Bogle. So the 3-5-2 I just don't like as a formation. I don't think it's the one to go for. And the other way of playing the three back, of course, is to go drop one of your midfielders. So you drop, say, Stack, for example, and you go sort of three up front. So let me just grab another attacker. Who we could have played. Let's go Perot. So you went, I don't know, three up front, like this in a sort of 3-4-3. You probably wouldn't play Nemec. You'd probably have to play Aronson. So I'll go grab Aronson. So say you went like this, and you went sort of 5-3, and you went sort of 3-4-3 as you would play this. This is almost how Scum play, actually. The problem again here is, and this is something that Scum have had problem with all year, I know they won today, but they've had issues with all year, is if you play like this and you play against a four, what constantly happens is you've got a situation in midfield where it's a 3 versus 2. And you basically just get completely outnumbered in midfield, and then they basically win the midfield battle, and then they end up usually going on and winning the game. So again, I don't think the three at the back works personally. I don't really like it, because the other thing when you're doing this, of course, is that you've lost now a midfielder. So you've lost a midfielder, so you're getting outnumbered in the midfield, and now you've got actually a 3-on-1 on their number 9. So in which you don't need. It's overkill in defence. And then you're sacrificing your midfield. And again, if you do this, essentially what you're doing is, or if you go 5 at the back, unless you play this formation, but if you go 5 at the back in the other way, and you go sort of 2 up front like this, and Bo comes back in, and we'll go get, say, Tanaka comes back in the midfield, and you go back to this formation, again, the other issue is you're essentially sacrificing attacking players for defensive players, because in this system, obviously, we had Harrison and we had Aronson out wide, who were 2 attacking players, whereas now, instead of that, you've just got Perot, and you've got Biol instead. So you lose a bit of attacking threat naturally because you don't have as many attackers on the pitch, which is another reason, again, why I don't like the 5 back. I just don't think it works. I know Palace do it really well, but Palace do it really well by pushing on Munoz, especially down this right-hand side, but Mitchell as well on this left-hand side so high. And that's how the way they play. But they've also got fantastic midfielders when they play it, because they play 3-4-3, and they've got fantastic midfielders in Adam Wharton and what's the other one that plays next to him? Anyway, they've got 2 fantastic midfielders in there who sort of make up for it and can sort of manage the sort of 2 midfield. And naturally, they play with Pino on this side here in a 3, which naturally helps to come back in as well and almost make that 3 midfield. So again, for our makeup, I just don't really like the 3-5-2, the 3-4-3, nor the 5-3-2 either. I just don't like any of them formations. I just don't think it fundamentally works. Let's get some of your guys' comments anyway. 3-5-2 might not be the answer, but away versus Burnley, with only Harrison's wing options, it was worth it for that game. Maybe. Well, look, the thing is, BMG, we lost the game anyway, so I don't think we'd lost by any more if we'd have played a 5-3-2 or a 3-5-2. I agree with you on that. I think in that particular game versus Burnley, they offered so little in attack that we'd have been better with a 3-5-2. But 90% of other games, I'd agree with your breakdown. Fair enough. Fair enough. As I said, we were in a sort of uncomfortable position in this Burnley game because naturally, against Burnley, we just didn't have any wingers. Like, normally, you wouldn't have your best three wingers out. Because if we're being totally honest, and if we're looking at it sort of in retrospect here, without emotion as much involved, it's almost like Leeds United playing... Leeds United had three... For me, Leeds United had all three of the first-choice wingers out. Gnonto, James, and Okafor. There are three first-choice wingers. It's equivalent to having no Biol, no Rodon, and no Strauch in defence. And having to play a back two of probably Bornau, wherever he is. Let's go find him. Bornau and potentially Ampadu. That is the equivalent of what we've had to do yesterday out wide. I know it won't be as focused on because it's out wide, but if we had that in defence, I think there'd be more question marks. And it'd be the same with Burnley. Like it's like Burnley having Ugachukwu, Florentino, and Cullen all out. Because I get everyone has got injuries. 100% everyone's got injuries. But in the same breath, not everyone always has injuries in the same position. That is what's killed us yesterday. We've got injuries in the same position, which is obviously what's been such a big issue for us. Anyway, my 3-5-2 is Darlow, Strauch, Rodon, Biol, Ampadu, Longstaff, Tanaka, Bogle, Goodmanson, DCL, Perot. We'd have more chance versus Burnley with that team, in my opinion, with BA and Jack Harrison. Only forward was DCL. Fair enough. So if you want your team then would be Calvert-Lewin, Perot up front like this, then Tanaka, Longstaff, and let's go get him. Where is it? Stack in midfield. Ampadu at the back, and you'd have, did you say Biol? Biol and Rodon. So Biol and Rodon. So that'll be your back three. See, that's fair enough, because I think one of the benefits, if you are going to play this way, and I think this is where it's quite interesting, I don't hate this if you're going to do a back three, because what you can do actually in a back three out of possession is you can actually make it 4 in midfield and bring Ampadu into midfield, and then you actually outnumber it in midfield, and then you can get one of Tanaka or Longstaff getting into this and then almost making it a front three by pushing them forward. So I don't hate that as an idea if you are going to do that. I also don't hate the idea actually either, which people might think's mad, of playing Ampadu potentially in the midfield, say you drop Stack, and then actually bringing in, let's go get him, James Justin into the back three. Because then what you can do is you can push Bogle on, and it can almost become a back four at times with Justin, Biol, and Goodmanson. And we've actually seen before Justin playing the sort of back three a lot. We've seen that a lot of times in his career. He's played it for England. He's played it for Leicester. He can play the right of a back three, which I do like, because then obviously he can, as I said, he can operate into a back four as well when you need to do. And then you can have Tanaka, Longstaff, and then you'd almost have a weird front three of Bogle, Perot, and Calvert-Lewin, which wouldn't look right, but in game would probably look better than that. So I do think there is a ways around a back three, but I think traditionally a back three doesn't look particularly great, in my personal opinion. And also, bear in mind, if you wanted to play a back four, you could also play with Bogle as your right winger if you wanted to, and play Justin at right back. But I think Bogle's so effective at right back, I probably wouldn't do that personally. So yeah, that's my opinion on the sort of back three, sort of back four chat yesterday. I just don't really necessarily like a back three. I just don't think we've almost got the personnel for it. And not just that, I also don't think that, I just don't like it, because I think you end up being outnumbered at somewhere else on the team. The only way you play against a back three, in my opinion, against a back three, is if they play two up top. If they play two up top, I get the idea of it, because then you've got 3 centre halves versus two strikers, and you're back being not outnumbered anywhere on the pitch. So I think that's something to bear in mind. If 2 of Gnonto, James, or Okafor were fit yesterday, we'd have been different. Jack Harrison and Brendan Aronson are fine if we need to defend, but Burnley is a rare game where we're the dominant team. Exactly, I completely agree, BMG. That team would have been there. But Strauch, not Justin. Strauch, Biol, and Rodon as a back three, in my opinion. Fair enough. I just like Justin because he can obviously operate on that right-hand side, and it can become a back four at times in possession, which I quite like. But yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I think what I do want to talk about, though, slightly in this sort of situation is I want to talk and discuss a bit about Daniel Farke, because we've talked about Daniel Farke in terms of his messaging, but there's been a lot of discourse in the fan base and talk around Daniel Farke's actual future at Leeds United Football Club. My honest opinion is this conversation is just far too early. I don't think that Farke at this moment in time is in much difficulty or much worry of losing his job at this moment in time at all. I think he'll be quite secure in his job for a few games now. I think if we lost the West Ham game, lost the Brighton game, and lost the Forest game into the international break, I think he could be in trouble in that particular international break. But at this particular moment in time, I don't think he's in any trouble of being sacked. So I almost feel like with this Daniel Farke conversation, I get it, and I get that people don't like him, and I get we've got this sort of part of the fan base that are just so anti-Farke and would have sacked him if we were top of the league at this moment in time. They just don't like him, and they don't like the way he approaches games. They don't like what he says in press conferences. They don't like his post-match chats. They don't like any of it, which is fine. But I think we just need to park the Daniel Farke conversation for a second, because he isn't going to be relieved of his duties. I think, as I said, if we lost to West Ham, lost to Brighton, and lost to Forest going into that international break, it'd be 4 losses in that in the period just obviously between the 2 international breaks. I think then you're looking at potentially a change could occur. But I think we are wasting our time discussing Daniel Farke's future at this particular moment, because I don't see a world where Daniel Farke gets sacked at this exact moment. And I know we've got likes of PSF, Easy, etc., who would sack him in a heartbeat. I get that. As I said, I saw a poll this morning where 40% of the fan base would like to move Daniel Farke on, which I think is kind of crazy personally for where we are. But fair enough, everyone's entitled to their opinion. But as I said, it just needs parking, because it's not going to help us. We need to stay up this year. Regardless, I know I made a rant video yesterday, so I'm the worst case for this. But we are actually going to have to be positive, and we're going to have to be fantastic home form, and we're going to have a fantastic home atmosphere, because these extra little percentages that we're going to get from having a brilliant home atmosphere are what we're going to keep Leeds United in the Premier League if we are going to stay in the league. We're going to have to be all on board with it, because the team are not good enough for me on its own to not be able to have to rely on the individual percentages that you'll get from a home performance. Now, one thing that obviously to bear in mind with Leeds United, of course, is that our home spot is fantastic. It's the best in the country, in my personal opinion. Yes, there's only 36,000, and some grounds have 50-odd thousand. But for each individual fan that we have, the way we can generate an atmosphere at Ellen Road is like nothing in the country. It's sort of, it brings you back to the 90s. That's what everyone says when they come to Ellen Road, and that will be a massive claw for Leeds United, and a massive reason why Leeds United can stay in this division. But what we can't have is a really toxic Ellen Road, and it's not a cry to the fan base. Everyone can do their own opinion. If you want to boo at half time at the weekend against West Ham, if we go down, fine. But I'm telling you, it won't help our survival hopes. It really won't. I think we and Farke have been fine up until yesterday. Those unlucky drop points are okay as long as we beat crap teams. We never looked like winning yesterday. A worrying sign. Yeah, I do agree. And this is why when we talked about BMG, and this is why I was completely on the floor after the Bournemouth game. Because look at it now. Like, if we'd have beat Bournemouth, we'd still be on 10 points. It wouldn't actually be that bad. This loss would have been bad, but it wouldn't have been horrendous, because yes, you might target the sort of the Burnley game as points, but you might have not really have targeted Bournemouth at home as massively 3 points games. So you'd have almost just swapped them out, and it would have been all right. It's not fantastic, but we'd have got them extra 2 points with Bournemouth. We got a win where we didn't expect there, and then we got a draw against Newcastle where maybe we didn't expect. And all right, we've lost the game we should have probably won, but it sort of evens itself out. But now we've ended up dropping points to the Bournemouth game in the last minute, and then also losing yesterday. I think it's just compiled to the point where we've ended up in a situation where it looks kind of worrying. As you said, I think that's a fair summary. I think it does look kind of worrying at this moment. And as I said, this is why it was the Fulham drop point, and as I said, the 2 points that we dropped, that would have been the 3 points. Your Fulham away game and the Bournemouth game would have been the 3 points that would have made up for yesterday. Games where we didn't expect to get points in, and we would have got points in. And now we're in a situation where we didn't get any points in them games. The other thing is, like, if we'd have got promoted and Sheffield United had been promoted as well with us, and they'd have won that player final, which, by the way, Tyrese Campbell put them 1-0 up, and they were leading the game. If they'd have gone up, I think they come straight back down. I still think Burnley are going to go out, so that'd be 2. And Wolves at this moment in time look horrendous, so they'd have been your bottom 3. And we could have, I think, plausibly, it would have been quite easy to stay up. The problem we've got at the moment is that Sunderland are having such a good time of it that it's putting so much pressure on Leeds United. That is the issue. is that Sunderland are causing Leeds United a huge problem at this moment, because not only now do we have to finish above one of the teams last season that were in the Premier League, but now we've actually got to finish above two, because Sunderland have forced it where they're not going down. So now you're looking at going, well, if Sunderland are not going down, we're going to finish above, as I said, two of the teams. So now you've got to drag in a Brentford, you've got to drag in a Wolves, if you've got, not a Wolves, you've got to drag in a West Ham, you've got to drag in a Forest. One of these teams now has got to fall down as well to keep Leeds United up, because of the start and because of the performances of Sunderland. And fair play to them, Sunderland did a fantastic job. But as I said, that is frustrating, because we were probably, I mean, they scored that goal in the play. Look, we had to do our own thing. But Sunderland scored a goal in the 95th minute with Tommy Watson at Wembley, which sent them up, which is currently really, really messing up Leeds United's Premier League campaign. Not that it would have been fantastic anyway, but I think we'd have had so much more a chance if Sheffield United had come up. In hindsight, I think we could have spent less on a keeper, not signed Bornau, and made more of an effort to make some sales. We could have maybe then had a game changer. Yeah, I agree. I think we've made mistakes. I always said with the transfer window, BMG, that it's not about what we did do, it's about what we didn't do. And I think the signs we've made, still, I agree, for myself, for the most part, have been good. I think Perry will be useful for us this season. I know people like Darlow, but I think he will be useful. I like Goodmanson. I think he's fantastic. I think Biol will be good for us, definitely in defence. Stack, I know, wasn't great yesterday, but I still think there's a player in there. Longstaff, I think the same with as well. Okafor, we've seen yesterday how much difference he makes. And Calvert-Lewin on a free was a brilliant signing, in my personal opinion. So I look at it and I go, the signings are not awful. It's just that we didn't get the extra ones. And I think, as you said, BMG, that's where sales were needed and needed to be presented in order so Leeds United could have spent more money and got some extra quality in attack. But also, we should have got a loan in. We should have done loans. I can agree that we're nearly maxed on PSR and we don't have much money. I get that. But we could have got loans in. We could have done loans. We could have done a Solomon. That would have helped yesterday. I'm not saying Solomon was the answer. And if you watch my videos all summer, I didn't even want Solomon. But looking back now, I was probably wrong. We probably should have done a deal like Solomon, because having him as extra depth would have been helpful. But as you said, a game changer would have been nice, but it only takes a game changer to get injured and all changes again. West Ham are playing Monday night. And have less time to recover for the Leeds game this Friday. Just got to hope that has effect on West Ham. Yeah, I agree, Jaguar Skills. I actually said this on Friday's video. I said I think that's a massive plus for us, actually, because if I remember Leeds United playing, and I don't know if you guys remember this as well. You probably will now when I say it. But Leeds United had the Middlesbrough game in the back end of the first Championship season under Daniel Farke. We had the Middlesbrough game moved to the Monday night. Again, we won 4-3. Somerville scored 2. And we won the game 4-3, but a really high-intensity game. And then we also had the next weekend's games moved to Friday, similar to what West Ham have had. And it was actually a QPR game, if I remember rightly. And we lost that QPR game 4-0 away from home at QPR. Now, we were terrible that night. And it wasn't an excuse at the time, but I don't think it helped our cause. And I'm hoping, as you said, that West Ham will have the same issue when they come to Ellen Road. Obviously on Friday night, that we've had that extra recovery time and we should be better up for it. And I do think under lights at Ellen Road, the crowd will be bang up for it. I think it's also a game that suit the likes of Sean Longstaffs and Ampadu's. I think that's what I want. I want Tanaka back in the midfield as well. I think he'll make a massive difference. But I do think, as you said, I think that's a huge benefit for Leeds United. Jugger Skill says the thing is, who is going? Bamford, Harrison, Aronson, etc. I think the obvious one was probably Pascal Strout, personally. I still think that. I know people have liked the start of the season and I mind it, but I think when you've got Biol there, I think we could have potentially got maybe 20 million or something for Pascal Strout, and I think that would have aided our summer business massively, in my opinion, because he's also been a pure profit player. We have to hope that 3 of Burnley, Wolves and West Ham and Forest fail to recover some form. Yeah, we do. And look, that can happen. It's just a shame about that. BMG says, I agree, the signings. Demetra and also finding a free, completely agree. With Ampadu, even Justin able to play centre-back, Bornau seems to be a pointless sign, even though he was only 5 million. Yeah, he does. And I think we obviously had money for Harry Wilson, which was in around the sort of 10 million mark, potentially. So you add the Bornau money as well, then you've got yourself, 15 million quid. And you look at it and you go, actually, with 15 million quid, that's a decent Premier League attacker. We bought Okafor for 18 million. He's a decent Premier League attacker. We should have been able to go into the market and find another one, £15 million. So yeah, you're right. Bornau, he's looking like a bit of a mess, if we're being honest. To be honest, Biol and Perry are probably looking like a bit of a mess at this moment because Biol's not getting in over a lad we had last year. And we bought him to start, so that seems bizarre to me. Although I do think he'll probably start against West Ham. I might be wrong, but I do think he will. And Perry as well, he's looking like a bit of a mess because he was another 15 million quid. And Darlow's actually probably keeping him out of the team at this moment in time. So, yeah, there is problems with the new signings, but I do think by the end of the season, we'll look back at Perry. I think he will have had a good season. I do think BL will eventually get into the team and be a good signing for us. So, yes, but I think we need to sort of hold fire a bit on some of it. Strout didn't even want to leave. If he was put up for sale, though, yeah, you can force players out the door, though. I know Strout was with us when he got promoted. I do think there would have been. I think we could have done something. I really do. I also said, as I said, loans. We should have done loans, shouldn't we? As well, we should have done loans. I do think loans will be available to Leeds in January. I've talked before, but because of the World Cup in the summer, players are going to want to play on loan to get in that World Cup team. So I do think that will be a situation, and I do think loans will be able to happen for Leeds United in January. But we've got to do them. We've got to do some. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, everyone. We've been going 34 minutes. I'm quite tired. It is a Sunday evening, so I want you to enjoy Sunday evening as well. Obviously, not the weekend that Leeds United wanted, but we move on, don't we? That's what we do. We've got to move on. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks all for watching, as always. If you have reached this video, if you could drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, that would massive the channel. And also, can you drop a like? Because I got hammered yesterday by Burnley fans. And I know that's part of the job. But, you know, if there is some Leeds fans watching, give us a thumbs up. It does massive out the channel. It's only a small channel as well, so it does help. See you all later, everybody, though.